everybody. Welcome back for another episode of A Heart Full of History. And I'm so excited to be speaking with extraordinarily accomplished author Vivian Kirkfield. Thank you so much for joining me. I had the pleasure of meeting you last month in Boston, and you are just such a vivacious, amazing person to talk to. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. And I'm always happy to chat about my passion, right? What
Absolutely.
I love to do.
We were just saying that it's so important that we share our passions and do some good for this world, send positive energy because that what do we have besides that? This world needs the positive energy. This world needs passion,
Right.
and young people especially.
Right.
You know?
And as Christy, I think her name is Krista McAuliffe, the astronaut
I remember,
and teacher.
Yeah.
So she said, I touch the future, I teach.
That's right.
And I think that we as writers or illustrators, whichever we're doing, and editors,
Absolutely.
we are touching the future.
So much, absolutely.
Because we are putting out words that might inspire young people to follow their passion to a life of purpose, right? Because that's what we have to do. We have to find what we're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I think we have to encourage them to have hopes and dreams and plans of what might be, because if we stop hoping and we stop dreaming, we will be lost.
Right. And that's a real problem these days, especially with the young people always going on. There's nothing wrong with the internet in moderation, the phones and all that, but they're just so obsessed with it. They're giving up on their own dreams and just like buying into all this passivity of watching videos of whatever. They're not actively seeking their goals. So I think our books are the antidote for that,
Definitely.
Very important.
Definitely. Yeah. Because real books, and nothing wrong with Kindle things and audio books. Yeah. Those are all amazing. And they actually make stories accessible for a wider audience.
Yes.
But there is something amazing about holding a book.
Yeah. It's so true. It's like magic.
A book, right?
Yeah. And that's something that has transcended time. It's still so magical to hold a book. It's something invaluable. It's so important, and I'm so thrilled to be part. It's such a privilege to be published and be able to share stories because there's so many people that never even get published. It's such a hard industry to break into, but wow, it's a thrill, and I never stop being grateful for that. But the magic is when you hear from the young readers, and it's like, wow, you get one letter, it's like, oh my gosh, I always tell them write to me on my, I give them my website and I say, write to me on my website.
Right.
And a lot of them don't, but when they do, it's magic to get that. That's like the completion of the circle,
You're right. I did a school visit for a different book that was about inventors, actually visionaries whose inventions changed the way the world moves. And so I did a presentation at a school, and the students drew pictures and wrote little thank you notes to me.
Yeah.
And one girl drew a picture of some kind of a contraption, like a pencil with something on it. And she said, I was so inspired. And I think she was like a fifth grader. I was so inspired by the stories about the inventors that I made my own invention.
I love that.
It's right.
Yeah.
I mean, because that is what we want to do. And whether we're writing about people or places or things, we want to spark something in children so that they will want to know more.
Absolutely.
About anything. I don't care if they want to collect comic books or
Exactly. It doesn't matter, but you have the passion. You have to have the passion.
Right.
Absolutely. I know. It's so true. I mean, and even, when you think about it, Unfortunately, a lot of people go into jobs just to for the goal of money. Nothing's wrong with money. We need money, but that's not my
We do
goal. Like
need money, right?
it's a byproduct, right? They go into jobs they hate because they want to make money. They haven't thought about. People spend so much time searching for a partner, this and that. How about the time for your passion, for the thing,
Right,
your job? This should be something that you care about, And
right,
I feel so many people are so like depressed, and I'm like, well, what do? And they don't. If you don't have joy in the thing you're doing, 8 hours a day or whatever, how? Of course
right,
you're depressed.
right.
You know.
I always would tell my kids, find your avocation, what you love, and find a way to make that your vocation,
Exactly.
how you're going to earn money. Now, not
Exactly.
everybody can do that, but we
No, but
can
I mean, at least if
try.
they think about it, and then they
Right,
can find some way,
right.
some way to pursue some sort of passion. It could also be a hobby, But I feel a lot of
Exactly.
people just close down from that.
Yes, right.
And it's
Well,
I find
our
it
books
sad.
are helping open them
That
up,
yes, very
you
much
know,
so, and
open their
you can
hearts,
see
right?
it is about sparks.
Yeah,
We get a spark when we get an idea, and then when we write it, then our spark sparks others. It
right.
sparks the young people
Yep,
to go on with what that girl said to you was a perfect thing. That she made her own invention. That's exactly
right,
that's the magic of the whole
right,
process.
right. And maybe she won't become an
I
inventor
know, but just the
or
fact that that
anything,
happened,
but
yeah,
that moment,
yes,
you know,
it stays with
it's
them.
just,
It
yeah, and
stays
it
with
does
them.
stay with them. It
Yeah,
does stay with them. And their early successes, I think, are also important.
very much so.
And
Yeah,
however we, as writers or illustrators or editors or, people in the book world, if we can encourage that, um,
yeah,
then and help them get early successes. So I have this little contest. I mean, I have a contest for adults, but I
yeah.
also have a challenge for students.
Oh, okay.
And in May, during Children's Book Week,
Hmm.
and which is, I think, the first week in May or the second week in May, and I invite parents and teachers to invite their children
Hmm.
to write a story in 50 words or less.
Okay, you do
And
that with adults too, right?
I do, right.
Yeah,
So the adult
yeah.
one is a contest, there's huge prizes. And like
Hmm.
this year, we had 672 submissions.
Wow, that's great.
And we had 60 amazing prizes, like
Wow.
critiques with editors, critiques
Mm,
with agents. People have gotten book deals,
amazing. Wow,
In
love it.
fact, the very first year, the person, which was 2016, the person who won wound up signing with my agent.
Wow,
And shall I show you her book? I mean, it,
absolutely.
it was,
Yeah.
this was the story that I read. And it turns out she lives in Switzerland.
Oh,
And it was a little story a rhyming story about a
oh,
tiger. And it was just so sweet. And I was like, oh my God, if I was a parent, I would be reading this to my child every single night. So
hmm,
I made her first place winner, and
that's
she
great.
chose my agent. And my
Wow,
agent loved her story and asked to see more and signed her to
wow,
represent her, sent that story out. And now there are actually 8 books in this
wow.
series.
That's
Little
what a
panda,
story.
little
Wow,
penguin, right?
love it.
And but the challenge for children is also lovely. They don't get prizes because I don't want to tell one kid, oh, yours was the best and yours
Yeah,
wasn't, that.
absolutely.
But they all get a certificate
Right.
of participation that I email to the parent or teacher.
Hmm.
And the stories are amazing. And last year, we had a high school English teacher from Wisconsin who sent 70 stories
Wow.
from all of her English classes, I
Oh,
guess.
I
And
love that.
I had not had stories from 17 and 18-year-olds before. I usually get
Right.
third graders, fourth
Sure. Yeah,
graders,
absolutely. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
this was
Wow.
really
I love
amazing.
that.
So,
I
yeah,
love
so
that.
so we need to do things that can encourage children to and empower them to use their voice, right? Because
Yeah.
that's
I think that's
important.
amazing. And actually, the high schoolers, it is it's so important with them too. They kind of fall through the wayside, when it comes to children's books. By then, we kind of we don't concentrate on them as much. I try to have school visits with them, but I never get. I usually get. Well, I do get sometimes, but majority of them are elementary school.
Right. Right.
But the high school students, it's so important for them to be creative, and that's exactly like when they're younger, they're kind of into it, But then when they get to high school, it's like you can lose them completely. So it's a vital time.
Right. And you know what I think we need to do? I know teachers are so crazy busy, and they don't even have time for the curriculum that's required.
I know.
But I think every high school teacher should start the day with a picture book.
That would be amazing.
It takes 3 minutes to read.
Yeah.
Quick. So many important topics are touched upon and addressed in a usually gentle way. Gender equality, equity in the world, racism, all these hot topics that are sometimes difficult, especially with middle grade or young adult books, to bring those into the classroom. But a picture book,
it's perfect. Yeah, it is it's perfect.
And they're beautiful, and the illustrations are works of art.
They really are.
And just from a cover, and even if they don't discuss, it plants a seed,
absolutely,
in those students. So that's if I
do you promote that?
I do, yes.
Excellent.
I do. And at NCTE, we talked about it, on my panel.
Oh, okay, good.
We talked about it.
Well, I'm going to look at, I'm sure you have it on your website then, right? Or no? About the whole idea of the picture books. Is that on your website?
No, it's not.
Oh, you should put it on your website, because I was going to say I'll link it to mine.
Yeah. I should. Yeah.
Well, listen,
I'm actually updating my website.
Many things that I always say, I need to put this on my website, but actually doing it is a lot. It's a lot of work. Websites are a lot of work.
Yes.
But I got the one that you have the templates, so you just fill it in. You know what I mean? Like, because I can't. The idea of having someone else do it doesn't work for me, because I don't want to go to somebody every time I need to update my website.
Right. And I've done mine since 2010 by myself, and I am the least tech savvy person in the world.
Wow.
But I've done it, and I blog a lot. I mean, this past few months I didn't because of my eyes, but previously, I mean, I was blogging 2 or 3 posts every week.
Wow.
That's like insane.
That is insane. Blogging is tough, because I feel like of course I have to revise it because I'm a writer. It has to be good. And then I've used all my energy, and I'm not writing my book. That's the problem with blogging for me.
Right. Yes. And I ran into that as well, but it's so hard. I'm like, what was it? Oklahoma? Is that the show? I'm just a girl who can't say no. Right.
Yeah.
So that's me. I mean, when people reach out, friends, critique buddies, people that I've taken classes with, debut authors, and they're like, hi, I have a new book and I'd love a spot on your blog. How do I say no?
Oh, I understand. Yeah, I do. Well, honestly, the podcasting is easier for me, because I'm sitting here, I'm having a great conversation with you. It's very organic.
Right.
I don't have to worry about editing it,
Right. No, I love that. That's a great idea
for me, because honestly, I love this. I'm so excited by podcasting. Like it, and it's just so freeing for me. So I'm having a great time.
Well, good. Yeah. And because you're having a great time, your guests are having a great time.
Exactly. It's the same thing. It's that infectious spark, so absolutely.
Yep. Exactly.
So let's talk about Lucy Stone. Okay.
Okay. Can I hold up the book?
I want you to. Yes.
Yay.
Look how
Lucy
beautiful.
Stone.
Oh, a work of art.
I know. Rebecca Gibbon is the illustrator.
Amazing.
And you know what I love so much? I love that editors, and this is Carolyn Yoder in this case.
Yes.
When they read your manuscript, they are already visualizing I mean, if they love the words,
Of course.
right?
Yeah, right. Of
You
course.
know, and they
Yeah.
think, oh, I'd love to make this a book. They are already visualizing who
Yes.
is going to illustrate.
That's quite amazing.
And I mean, Carolyn,
Yeah.
she just is so spot on.
Yeah.
And Rebecca Gibbon was the best person
Oh
for
yeah.
that book. The
Isn't it
illustrations are
amazing how
amazing.
and it's just like having a child, right? We don't all of a sudden we're like waiting for the birth so we see what it looks like, you know?
Right. And I love that. I love that when they send me first sketches and they're
Oh my
like,
God, it's so exciting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, oh my God, it's amazing. They'll say, like, well, does anything need to be changed? And like, unless there's something
Right. Major. Yeah.
historically
Yes.
inaccurate, or
Yeah.
I mean, it's not for me to say
Exactly. That's how
he
I
should be
feel.
taller, shorter,
Yeah.
you know, her hair
That's
should be
exactly how I feel.
curly or
Yeah.
straight. No, I
Yeah.
mean, we have to
Yes.
encourage the illustrator to tell their story,
Yes.
because they're really more than half. I mean, people say it's half and half, but they're more than half
I think they're the
because
part that people, unfortunately, not fortunately and unfortunately, appreciate more. Like when the kids ask me, "Did you draw this?" I'm like, "No."
right, 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 exactly. Yes, I cannot draw either.
Well,
I-
I used to say, well, no, if I drew it, it would look like the "Don't let the pigeon drive the bus." But that
Right,
one with Caldecott, so maybe I should draw.
right, exactly, exactly.
I wanted to write a book called "Don't Let Benedict Arnold Guard the Fort," and like have him like, "Kids, let me guard the fort." You know,
Right.
I think that would be so cute.
That would be so cute.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes,
but you
that
know,
would
I
be
mean,
great.
I don't know. I have a
Yeah.
lot of ideas that I mean, I just the odds of getting it
Don't
published.
come to fruition.
I would like to do it, but I can't see it getting published. You know, like that's the problem. You know, you have to, you know, you have to have the
Well,
market for it. I think I don't know.
right. I mean, kids do love like seditious stuff,
They
right?
do. Well, my new book is about treason, actually,
Right.
and I have a
So,
book about Benedict Arnold. But look, maybe one day I would love to do that. I would. It's like I always say it's a joke, but you know, there are no jokes. Isn't that what? Who said that? Freud.
oh,
There
I
are no
don't know,
jokes.
but right. I mean, everything
Yeah,
is based on the truth, and
yeah.
there are a lot of like tongue in cheek
There are. Yeah,
stories out there.
there. Yeah, it's
And
true.
kids love them because they get it, right?
They do.
They get it,
Yeah,
you know.
they do.
And we need, and that's another thing we need, as you say, bring them joy. They need to have humor.
Yeah,
They need to find things to laugh about,
they
because
do.
otherwise it would be too discouraging, you
That's
know.
very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. Well, I'm
Yeah.
very pleased. My new book it brings like a humorous side of Washington. You know, very vulnerable. You know, he gets a pair of glasses and
Right. Oh, the
tries them.
spectacles
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yes, I
So
know. It looks
it's my
amazing.
first kind of funny book. You know, and you
Right.
would it happened by accident. I mean, I started writing it very serious. I'm a very serious writer. You know,
Okay.
but then I just all of a sudden it came to me because I had to go to a writers group to and I always want to have something to share, and I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
have anything, so I worked it, and I just gave up on it. And I said, let me pull out the glasses again. I didn't even pull it out. I just started from scratch, and I just started with his voice and the vulnerability, you know. And
Wow.
you know, George Washington got glasses. It was a secret, you know, like, and that was it. And it's amazing how all of a sudden all your work, you can work for years on something, right? And that's
Right.
kind of the
Yep.
foundation. Like you kind of have to go through this process, you know. It's
Right.
the
Right.
creative process is not a straight line, you know. It's just not, you know. And then
Right.
one day it just comes, you know. And I think a lot of people don't have the patience for that, you know. It's not automatic. Now it is automatic if you can force yourself. Okay, every day, and we should sit down. I'm going to write, but you don't know what's going to come out of you, you know.
Yeah, you know, that isn't my process. I mean,
Okay, what's your
I do,
process?
my process is totally wrong.
What's your
I mean,
process?
it's nothing. Well, so when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is I check my emails, and they always tell you don't do that
That's
because,
right.
right? But
They
no, I
do.
do that,
Yeah.
and then if I'm mentoring somebody or helping somebody with a manuscript, I'm probably doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my writing sometimes gets pushed
I understand that.
over
Yeah.
unless I'm actually, like when I was working on the Lucy Stone book.
Right.
So if I'm working on something, especially if an editor has already said they're interested,
Right.
and like, I don't know how it is with you, with your editors or with Carolyn, but or other editors, but it's not always the version you send
Oh,
originally
not at all. Yeah.
that,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
so with the Lucy Stone, she saw the story, and I wrote that story because I saw one of those, it's called History at Play, and there's a woman local in the Boston area, and she dresses up as um like a revolutionary person or as
Right.
whoever, and she puts on an entire performance
Hmm.
as that person,
Nice.
and she did one as a Lucy Stone.
Oh, wow.
And I saw it, and I was like so intrigued
Hmm.
that even as a child, Lucy Stone realized there was something not right about women not having a voice.
Wow.
And that's why it's called One Girl's Voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she saw her mother had to obey the father. A
Yeah.
neighbor woman was being mistreated by her husband, and it was totally fine. We're talking about 1820s,
Hmm.
1830s. And in church, the minister said women needed to stay silent because that's what it says in the Bible.
Yeah.
And Lucy went to her mother. She was very upset, and she said, how could God want women to be in this lowly place?
Yeah.
And her mother said, well, that's just how that's how it is. And the
Well,
and
that's a
Lucy
really important
said,
question.
right. And
Hmm.
Lucy said, well, I don't believe it. I think that people are misinterpreting the
Hmm.
Bible,
I love that.
and
Yeah.
I am going to study Latin and Greek
Hmm.
so that I can read the original, because I'm sure that they are not, it
Wow.
wasn't translated properly.
Wow.
But even though she's an amazing student and smarter than her brothers and raising her hand before the others in her little class, one room
Yeah.
schoolhouse,
Right.
her father refuses to buy books for her.
Wow.
And so she goes out and she collects chestnuts and sells them and buys books.
Wow.
And then she wants to go to college. And when she's 16, she graduates from, the school, whatever school they were allowed to go to.
Yeah.
And her brothers were going to college. But her father says, is that girl crazy?
Ugh.
What does she need college for? She's going to get married and have babies, and
Wow.
she can read the Bible. She can do her accounts, right? Right,
Yeah.
add and subtract. That's all
Yeah.
she needs.
Oh
But
dear.
Lucy is determined,
Wow.
and she works for 9 years as
Well.
a school teacher,
Hmm.
for the local village
Right.
school. And whatever else she does, makes jam. I mean, she does everything.
Yeah.
And she saves enough money to go to Oberlin College,
Wow. That's
which
amazing. Yeah.
at that time was the only school in the United States that admitted men and women
Oh wow.
and people of color.
Hmm. Wow.
And so she goes, but what she discovers, she wants to take public speaking because she wants to speak,
Yeah.
which is like almost against the law for women to speak in
Wow.
public. And she discovers that in the public speaking class, women aren't allowed to speak.
It's crazy.
They're there only to be the audience for the men.
Oh no. It's awful. Wow.
So she sneaks off with friends and they practice.
Wow.
And anyway, and
Unbelievable.
she goes, so this
Wow.
even from childhood,
Oh my God.
this was a woman who knew her voice needed to be heard.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
important. It's just as important today.
Right.
You know,
Right. And so when she graduates, she's asked to do the valedictorian, one of the speeches, but then she finds out she's not going to be allowed to speak it.
crazy. That's
There'll
insane.
be a male student who
Wow.
says it. So she writes to her parents and she says, if I cannot read it, I surely will not write it.
Yeah.
And she does it, and she the rest of her life is going and speaking about abolition and
Mm.
women's rights, and she's just amazing.
Wow.
She's the first woman in Massachusetts to get a real 4-year college degree
Wow.
in
And she didn't take her husband's
1847.
name, right?
And she doesn't take her husband's
Yeah.
name, and people who didn't take their husband's name after that were called Lucy Stoners,
Oh, it's
which
so
is also
funny.
the name of heavy metal band
I
or
like
something,
that.
but
Yeah,
the Lucy
somebody should use
Stoners.
that. Yeah.
And finally, in the end, at the 50th anniversary, so I'll show you one page because the book
Absolutely.
isn't
Yeah.
out yet, but at the 50th anniversary of Oberlin College, they invite her. So even though they didn't allow her to speak when she graduated, now time has
Mm.
passed. She and others have changed some of the laws
Yeah.
and some of the rules, and she is invited to speak at
Oh, wow.
Oberlin's 50th
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow.
anniversary.
I love
And
it.
she says, when I went to college, only Oberlin was open to women. Now, more than half the colleges in the country
Mm.
are open to women. So she really
Yeah.
helped
And the fact
change
that
the
she was able to
laws.
finally speak to them is amazing.
Right,
That's
right,
lovely.
right,
I
right.
love that.
And I love the back matter because, as you know, back matter,
It's so
especially
important.
in
Well, whenever I speak
nonfiction,
with teachers, they love the back matter in the Calkins
right?
Creek books.
So there's a picture of
Wow.
that is Lucy Stone.
Yeah.
And then this is
Oh, what's that?
a billboard
Oh,
of when she
so
spoke
cool.
in Boston, I think, or
Wow.
somewhere in Massachusetts, and more pictures of her. She
Nice.
wore bloomers,
Love it.
to a New
Her
York
husband must have
conference.
been
Yeah,
pretty cool. Oh, that's sweet.
yeah, I know. And her daughter, Alice, grows up to follow her mother's heart,
Mm.
and in the late 1800s joins with Elizabeth Cady Stanton's daughter,
Oh, wow.
and they finally get,
The
in
right,
the
the
early
right to
20th
vote.
century, the vote for
Yeah.
women,
Which is
which is,
unbelievable that it took that long.
well, right, right. It's
Unbelievable.
unbelievable. I mean, and another reason I wrote the book, and it's in my author's note, is because when I got married in 1967, I had a college degree. I had a job teaching in New York City,
Mhm.
but I still could not get a credit card
That's what I
on
heard.
my
That's
own.
unbelievable. Yeah. Yeah.
And my husband had to co-sign
It's crazy. Now,
because
what happens
until
if you're not married? That's it. You just can't get a credit card?
no, your father could
Oh, father.
co-sign,
Well,
your
what if you don't
brother,
have it? Like, what if
or
you?
some hobo walking down the street, as long as it was a man,
It's
right?
unbelievable.
So that was
That's
1974, the
crazy.
Fair Credit Act, and women couldn't get a mortgage
Oh,
on their own.
unbelievable.
So from Lucy's time to that time was almost 100 years,
Wow.
and still
I have a funny story. I drove an RV across the country with my son. We had moved to California.
Mhm.
It's not what it seems. I'm back in New York now. But in any case, I was getting gas for the RV to return it, and I was, alone in the truck, and in the big thing, and a guy comes up to me. I think it was a trucker or something. He goes, "Where's your man?" I go, My man, I knew I forgot something.
I love that. That's
Unbelievable.
hilarious. I knew I forgot something.
It's unbelievable. I don't know what
Yes.
is this, you know?
Right.
I am
Right.
telling you, like,
And we still have, there is still that mentality,
there is. We've seen it.
and we saw it,
Yeah, we've seen it.
during the election,
We've seen it.
and
I was speaking, I have another podcast. It's like a fun, it's fun. It's a life. Not that this isn't fun, but it's like we drink wine while
oh,
we're talking.
okay,
It's called
right,
Life
right,
and
right.
Jest. And I was talking to my
Well,
friend,
I
like,
have tea.
I have coffee. Um, I'm doing that later today,
Oh,
the
okay.
cocktail hour. But we were saying, like, how, we don't even have the ERA, right? The ERA failed. Like,
Yes.
finally got ratified in Congress, and only to be torn down. The states did not ratify it in whatever it was, 2 years. So how could we even think that we were going to get a woman president? I just don't see how we could ever have a woman president. I just don't. I don't, because we're not. We do not. Our
Right,
equality. We have equality in a lot of ways, but the ultimate respect
right. Well,
is not.
Lucy Stone, she said she went before the New Jersey legislature at some point, and she said, there's Maria Theresa of Austria, or whatever country.
Yes.
There's Catherine the Great of Russia. There's Elizabeth of England. There's Isabella of Spain.
Yeah.
What is wrong with the United States that
Exactly.
we are our women the only ones in the world not capable of leadership?
I know, it's unbelievable. I mean, there
Right.
was a
And
woman.
so Lucy says
Yeah,
this, you know.
but okay, so I love that, but I'm horrified that we never got any further than that when it comes to
Right,
leadership, because
right,
I don't know what else to say. There was a woman that was on a panel the night of the election, and she said that she wouldn't vote for a woman because because the woman would not be respected in the rest of the world, because there's no other world leaders that are women. So the woman's completely uninformed, an idiot.
right,
Now, if
right.
women won't vote for women, forget it.
I mean, India, New Zealand, I
No,
mean, like all over. It's
it's
not just
insane.
like England,
This country is backwards with a lot of things. I mean,
Yes,
look at guns. Okay, I was in England with a friend, the same podcast friend. We travel around, and we struck up a conversation with a guy that working at one of the places we were at, and he
okay,
said, I don't understand you guys in America. We had one mass shooting and we got rid of the guns. What's wrong with you?
yes,
And we're like, we don't know. We don't want I mean, it's crazy how we just
yeah. I mean, I
keep
think
allowing this stuff.
part of it is that, oh, revolutionary
Right. Yeah.
cowboy,
Yeah.
Wild West
Well, yeah.
mm, mindset.
I know. Yeah.
And the other part, and a very important part, is the money,
The
the
money is, yes.
lobbying, and
We see this with everything, don't we?
with
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, this country, I think, is more money conscious
Yeah.
than
Absolutely.
many
It's
other
not even money
countries.
conscious. It's the greed. It's like
The greed,
the greed.
right,
It's just pure greed. It's because how
right,
much money does anybody need anyway? It's
right,
ridiculous.
right.
And
Yep.
we, what? I don't see an answer, except I do think we're an antidote to that too, in a way, because we're showing kids a different path than just,
Yes,
you know, you don't have to be this money seeking, greeting person. We write
right,
books that not only teach them about history, and history repeats itself, as we all
right,
know, we
right,
just said, but also we're showing the humanity in people. We're not,
right,
the old textbooks were like, George Washington did this. I thought he was so boring when I read about him. I had,
right,
but now we're
right.
learning about humanity and what people
Yes,
did, and that they didn't give up, and the strides they've made. It's so vital. It's so
right,
vital, So
right.
for so many reasons, the books are so important,
Yes.
you
No,
know?
I agree. And I mean, I always try to write about people who were just people,
Yeah.
and yet they had an idea
Yeah.
or a passion, and they pursued it.
Yes.
And most of them did not have money. They
Absolutely.
had to work really hard, like Lucy Stone.
Yeah.
She had to
I
pick
mean, that's
chestnuts.
amazing that all that work just to save up that money. I mean, that's the
Right,
thing. You have to, there's a quote, all know the way, but few walk it. It's like one of those Buddhist quotes.
right,
And it's
right,
true. Like you could say, oh, but the idea of actually going through with doing something that you want
right.
it that much, this is something, again, so vital for young people because these days, they're just, unfortunately, I mean, I think the technology is amazing, but I also think it's also, it's good and bad. It's both, and
Right. I think our kids need to be technologically savvy.
yes,
They need that. But they also, I think, all the video games and the videos,
yeah,
you become mindless,
exactly. It's so passive. Yeah, it's
and you're
absolutely.
watching
Hmm.
and you're being entertained.
Yeah.
I mean, my heart goes out to teachers
Oh,
because
I know. I don't know how they do it. I
what
don't.
a,
Yeah.
that's a big challenge for
Especially
them
after the
to,
pandemic with teaching.
right,
Oh my God. By the way,
right.
I'm really sorry. I got a new tablet and I allowed it to do updates and now
Oh, right. So it's
I
giving you
know.
notifications,
I don't
right?
I don't want
That's
the
so, it's lovely. I love the little bells and, it's a nice
I got a
sound.
generic tablet. So when I do my other podcast, I write a bunch of notes because I talk.
Right,
I'm in charge of doing the research for the podcast. So I need it just to go alongside. But yeah,
right.
now it's like I
That's all
don't
right. Well, it's just, just a lovely little, like
want.
a little angel is
Yeah, at
watching
least it's a
over us,
nice sound, not
The
really
seagulls, right?
jarring.
It's a
Yeah,
lovely sound.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, and I think, again, going back to why we're writing and inspiring kids. So I. Didn't start out doing that,
exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, I started out as a kindergarten teacher because that was my dream.
Hmm.
That was my
That's a tough
dream.
job.
I mean, but back in the 60s, it
Yeah.
was, and 70s, it was a lot
Was
easier.
it? Okay.
I mean, you could put kids on your lap, you could
Oh,
hug them.
yeah.
It was, and kindergarten was kindergarten.
Hmm.
It was just, for some of them, the first year of socializing
Right.
with, other kids.
Right.
Maybe they had been to pre-K
Right.
or Head Start because I was in New York City. So the
Yeah. Oh,
Head
right.
Start
Mm-hmm.
was a program there.
Hmm.
Um, but it wasn't like now when many, many, many kids go to daycare,
Hmm.
like because both parents are working, or if it's a single parent home, the parent is working, so the kid
Yeah.
is in daycare and they're getting some of that playtime and social time. So, but back in the day, kindergarten was kindergarten. So we started every day with a story,
Yeah.
a picture book story. And then we did rhythms, we did art, we
Hmm.
did science, we did and play.
Yeah.
It was play. It was about being a child.
Yeah. We've lost a lot of that.
Right. And I mean, yes, we did some alphabet and yes, we did counting, but it was not curriculum,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So, so there I was teaching, and then, I had my family, and I decided I didn't want to go back to teaching and put my children in daycare.
Right.
So I ran a daycare
Oh, wow. Cool.
for teachers' kids, and it was
Oh, that's good. That's
amazing.
great.
Oh, it was amazing.
Wow.
And I wound up, and then years later, I wrote a book for parents and teachers, all about the activities that you could do with children.
Love it.
And I self-published that
Mm-hmm.
before I knew about publishing,
Right.
critique groups, writing.
What year was that?
That was 2010.
Wow.
So it's actually a very sweet book. It's very, very sweet.
Oh,
And
that's
those
great.
those are my children.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love
And,
that.
and you can see them. So those are my children.
Oh, great.
And you can see the one with the curly
Yeah.
hair, the little girl at the bottom with the
Oh,
curls, right?
yeah.
And
Love
so
it.
it's all about what picture books you could read, because I didn't have any books. So I
Right.
was reading other people's picture books.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then art activities and cooking experiences. Okay.
Oh, that's
So
great.
this came in 2010. And the next year, I turned 64, I think. And my son gave me a very unusual birthday gift. He took me skydiving.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
And
Oh,
it was so much fun.
really?
Yes, it was
Oh my
lots of
God, I'm
fun.
terrified of that.
But you're tied up with the pro,
I
right?
don't care. I'm
You're
terrified of this.
strapped. And he was so adorable,
Oh
this
my God.
pro guy. And, he jumps. You're tied to
How does it
him.
feel like when you're on a roller coaster?
Well, so first you jump and you're falling. I actually have a video of it because my son hired some photographer to
Wow.
jump out and he
Wow.
took a whole video. So yeah, so you're falling, stomach first, right?
Right.
Flat.
Sounds
And the guy is
horrible.
on
Yeah.
your back, right?
Yeah.
Tied to you.
Uh-huh.
And that's like not so enjoyable
Right.
because
Does
there's
it
a
feel
lot of
like your stomach
pressure.
is like, what about your stomach? Doesn't that really?
It's like a lot of pressure.
Wow.
It's like you're in a wind tunnel
Oh my
and,
God. Ugh.
and then the next not very enjoyable thing is when they deploy the parachute
Right.
because you shoot up like out of a cannon.
Oh,
Right. But then the
yeah.
next 10 minutes
Yeah.
are amazing. And you're slowly gliding down,
Yeah.
as if you're standing, right? You're
Right. Right.
straight,
Okay.
gliding down. And it was Chicago. So all the beautiful farmland, it was like a patchwork quilt. It
Wow.
was beautiful. And my guy he was really good. When we got close to the ground, he said, all right, just put your feet back, like bend your knees.
Mm.
So I bent my knees between his legs, like, because I'm
Yeah.
again right in front of him.
Right.
And all of a sudden he's walking and he says, okay, put your feet down.
Wow.
And you can see, and I'm walking
That's,
and we were down.
yeah, I'm never going to do
But
that.
the best part
Yeah.
was when my feet touched the ground,
Yeah.
I knew that if I could jump out of a perfectly good airplane, I could probably do anything. And
Yeah.
that's
Good
when
point.
I jumped in to the kidlit world
That,
and I said,
wow. That's a great entrance
yeah.
story.
And
I
and
think
I
you win.
said,
I think you
I
win.
said like, well, I love reading picture books
Yeah.
and I love reviewing picture books, right? Because I
Yeah.
reviewed them and I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
reviewing them on my blog. I was
Yeah.
blogging. Um
Wow.
and I said, but maybe I could write them.
That is, you have the
And
best
that was
origin story.
2012.
I love it. I love it.
And I started writing.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
joined Julie Headland's 12 by
Oh,
12.
you
And I
did. Oh,
wrote
yeah. I know a lot of people that have
in
done that.
2012
Yeah. Yeah.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I wrote 12 manuscripts.
Uh-huh.
Some of them are books actually now.
Wow. That's great.
And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it
And the
is.
next year I wrote 12. I don't write 12 a year anymore.
Yeah.
But
Well, you have
because
to,
those weren't
then you have, when you have
nonfiction.
contracts, you have to work on the ones you've already done. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And those weren't nonfiction,
Yeah.
not
Oh,
until
okay.
2014. That's when I started
So,
writing. And
so how did you wind up doing the nonfiction then? That's interesting.
so after 2012 and 2013, and I was submitting a few of my stories, mostly little rhyming
Right.
stories, whatever, and getting back like,
Yes.
maybe you should write it in prose or,
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I realized I need to take some classes
Right.
because just because I'm a good writer doesn't mean I'm a good picture book writer.
Exactly. They're
Right.
the hardest thing to write of all.
Right.
Yeah.
Although if you tell people, they're like, oh yeah,
No, well,
they don't, they
unfortunately, some
think it,
celebrities have done some very bad picture books, and that makes them think that they're, but like, give me a break. They're
right.
awful. But,
Well, because you only have such a limited number. And,
right.
the tagline for my contest is magic happens when you make every word count.
That's so true.
And so
Yeah.
if you can write a story in 50 words, you're making magic,
That
right?
is magic.
That is magic, right? Or 100 words or
Yeah.
200 words or even
Yeah.
500 words,
Exactly.
right?
Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard.
But of course, nonfiction is usually more. So one of the classes I took was writing nonfiction.
Okay.
And it just sparked
Mm.
something in me. And I wrote Sweet Dream Sarah.
Where did you take the class?
It was online. The person isn't giving that class
Oh, okay.
anymore. She's not writing nonfiction
Oh,
anymore.
okay.
But it was amazing.
Hmm.
And I met Beth Anderson
I've heard
I
that.
think in the class, right? And a whole bunch of other people. And because I'd always loved nonfiction. When I was a kid, I read the encyclopedia cover to cover. I
Wow.
mean, and people listening to this, if they're young, will say, "What's the Encyclopedia
Yes.
Britannica?" Right? Because, we didn't have the internet, of course. So
Yeah.
you had to actually read,
Yes.
go to the library and read.
Absolutely.
And if I was having breakfast and there was nothing to read, I would read the back of the cereal box, the
Right.
ingredients.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to be reading, and I
Yeah.
loved facts.
Yeah.
And so, right. So I wrote the story that was my first nonfiction about this woman who had been a slave. And after the Civil War, she became like a carpenter. She owned a furniture store in Chicago,
Hmm.
and she invented a piece of furniture that was very unique. It was like a cabinet bed.
Wow.
This is before Murphy bed, which
Wow.
was 1916, and she was 1885.
Wow.
And she applied for a patent, and she got a patent.
Hmm. That's
First
amazing.
African American woman to get a
Wow.
U.S. patent. So that was the first, and I loved the research, and I
Right.
loved finding out
Yeah. It's
whatever
like
I
a thrill,
could.
right? To find these
Yeah,
facts. Yeah.
and then of course you go down this rabbit
You do.
hole
Yeah.
of
You do. And
a
you need
million
some
other
time.
things
Yeah.
you want to write about, right?
But I know. I have a scribbles all over notebooks of other things. Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, so that's how
I love that.
I got into
But so how did
writing.
you, like, what made you write about this woman?
So the person who gave the class said, go online, and this is like 2014.
Hmm.
Go online and just Google first woman to whatever,
Right.
throw a basketball,
I see.
dig a hole. I
Great
don't
idea.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And her name popped up. So, I was curious,
Yeah.
and I went to find out about her, and there was nothing about her.
Wow. Yeah.
Nothing. No books. She wasn't in any book. There was a few lines about her online on websites, just saying she invented this and got a patent.
Wow.
And I was like, I know there's a story behind
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
And it was hard
It
researching
must
because
have
there
been.
wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
I went to my local library. That's the first place you go, right?
Absolutely.
And the research librarian was amazing, but she reached out to some of the larger libraries like the Harvard
Mm.
Library and some research libraries that have more stuff.
Yeah.
And they said, we have a few photos of like the street where her furniture store was or whatever. I said, I'll take
Right.
anything you can give. And yeah, and I crafted that story with
So
the information that
how
I
did you
had.
manage to get enough? That's the thing I think
Right.
that people stumble on. How did you find enough information to really make that arc?
That's a great question. And it works both ways because when you're doing a nonfiction, especially picture book biography, maybe if you're doing a middle grade or something, you've got more room.
Right.
But so you either have not enough information or you have too much information and you have
Well,
to
I think a lot of
find the
times the
way
middle
in.
is you have to fill in the middle. It's
Right, right. And you have to find the way in.
yeah.
I went to the census data
Oh,
which is available to
yeah.
everybody. She lived in Chicago. I knew that.
Hmm.
And I knew around the time. So I went, and in 1870 and 1880, she is in the Cook County census.
Okay.
And in 1870, it says she lives, it was her father,
Right.
and I knew her maiden name was Jacobs. Her name was Sarah E. Good, but her maiden name was Jacobs. And so I found out about her that she was 15 at the time. She was a student.
Hmm.
Her father owned the building they lived in. So there was,
Okay.
it was information. And then in
Might be
1880, the census said she was living at a different address with her husband and her
mhm.
child, and they named the child.
Okay.
Then and somewhere I found out, I did find a grave,
Okay.
so
That's oh
online,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And she was buried in a cemetery in Chicago. And I wound up going to that cemetery because my son used to live in Chicago. And when I visited him, I went with him and his family, and we brought flowers. And her grave is not marked, but we knew where, it was. And my granddaughter wanted me to read the book because the book had come out at the grave. So that was so sweet. And then I reached out to that cemetery, and they were able to provide me with a list of all the people that were buried in the family plot. And so I found out about her mother, when her mother died, what she died of, and so I got information. Father was a carpenter, and so the story is nonfiction. There's totally nothing. There's no dialogue because I had
you can't make up dialogue, sure,
right?
Yeah.
So nothing is made up.
Yeah.
But I mean, she receives a denial of the patent application originally. Well, right. So we know she was sad, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we I think we can do that.
Yes.
There's certain things we know she breathed.
I hope so.
We know she
I definitely
breathed.
do that.
We know she walked. She, so there's certain things you can say. And with the census data, with the grave, the cemetery data, and her patent, which is online, so we can see her patent. It was signed by her.
Wow.
The store was owned by her.
That's amazing.
So it was amazing, right?
Yeah.
In the 1880s.
Wow.
So that's
great.
I
think that's so interesting. The idea of Googling just to start you off is so great. Like during the pandemic, I needed to write a new manuscript. So I literally just Googled like cool unknown things about history, something American history, something like that, right?
Right.
And this woman, Henrietta Wood, popped up only because, do you know who she is?
Henrietta Wood.
Yeah. Well,
no.
Okay, so
So that's you should write about her.
I did.
Right?
It's coming out next year.
Yay.
But
Yay.
well, it's the saddest thing I ever wrote, but it has a happy ending. But she was a woman that was enslaved. She was born enslaved. She was born on the wrong side of the Ohio River, right? Because she was on the enslaved side, and the other side, she saw people being free.
Sarah also.
Yeah. So I used the metaphor of the river, but what I found, like, only reason I found it was, I think, because an adult book came out about it. It always sounds sort of nefarious, an adult book, but for
right. I know, and I always want to say not porn, right?
Exactly. But it was it won the Pulitzer Prize, this book about this woman who was twice enslaved. She was freed she got her freedom papers for 5 years. She was freed, and then she was tricked and kidnapped back into slavery and was not freed again until Juneteenth.
Yep.
So I was just happened to be that other book had come out. I don't know if it would have had, like, what if the book hadn't come out yet? I would have had nothing. This guy got a grant. He wrote it for a university press. So he got a grant and was able to really, he had the luxury, I wouldn't call it luxury, but he had some money that at least he was able to take the time to really do the research. And he did things that I could never have done. I couldn't have traveled to all these places.
Right.
So I wrote it, and it was all because I Googled that. You never know. Never underestimate the power of Google.
Right. I love Google. I mean, I love it because now I don't have to go to bed at night wondering who this person, right? Sometimes you're having a discussion with somebody and you're talking about a movie or somebody in a song or whatever.
Yes.
You can't think of the name. And, it used to drive me crazy.
I know.
So now I do try to make my brain work, and I do try to figure it out. But if I can't, I'm going to Google it.
Absolutely. And it's amazing. You can Google like song lyrics and everything, like, because otherwise it'll stick in your head forever until you get it.
Right.
I know. It's so true.
Right.
Immediately arguments can be settled. It's lovely.
Right. It is lovely. So there is a place for in the internet, and our kids do need it, but they also need.
Exactly.
They need books. They need our books.
The internet can't replace the finished product. It's a great place to start off. It's you can learn, just like Wikipedia, right? Wikipedia, we
Right.
don't know if we can trust it, but you can find the sources
The
about him. The
sources
sources are
are
great.
amazing.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah. Well,
that
the
you
same
can
thing, like when you
follow.
find the finished product of a book and really that is irreplaceable.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's so
Yeah.
true.
No,
But
I just feel so blessed to be
yeah,
living my dream and helping others follow theirs.
that really is amazing that you do all that. That sounds like a lot of work doing those contests. I mean, a
But
lot.
you know what? I'm retired.
Yeah.
I have a very fortunate life that I have enough. I live in a house with my daughter and
Oh, that's
son-in-law
wonderful.
and grandson,
Yeah.
but I have my own wing.
Yeah. I love that.
So I have my own entrance. But if I open up the French doors from my living room, it opens onto their living
I love
room.
that.
And so we're together,
Yeah.
but not on top of each other.
That's great.
And we're in Bedford on 6 acres,
Wow.
surrounded by woods.
Hmm.
So it's just how nice houses. It's very quiet,
Cool.
and I can do it, right?
Yeah.
And what better way to have the second act of your life, but doing what you love
Absolutely.
and helping others do what they love and empowering children to hope and dream
Absolutely. The
and
most
plan for
important
what
thing.
might be, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're, as we said earlier, they're our future.
Yeah.
And so I mean, they need stories like Lucy Stone, like One Girl's Voice. They need stories like Sweet Dream Sarah. They need stories like, the Pedal Balanced Steer, the Annie Londonderry, but they also need funny stories
Yes.
and fiction stories
They do.
and
They need it all.
fantasy stories.
Absolutely.
They
Yeah.
need everything,
They do.
right? They need all different kinds of stories. And I hope that they are exposed to them as much as they can.
I hope so
So
too.
part of my contest is encouraging the participants to purchase a new book
Mm.
at a local indie, one of my local indies, and then when the contest is over, we donate those books to local schools
Wow,
in
that's
need,
great.
like Title I schools. So over the last 3 years, because I've only done that for 3 years, we've donated over 1,000 books.
Wow. Wow.
That's, and so kids, whether they give them the books or they put them in the library, I don't care what they do
Yeah.
with them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's good for the bookstore. It's
Absolutely.
good for the authors and illustrators of those books
Yeah.
that got bought.
Yeah.
It's good for the schools. It's good for the kids, and I think, we're spreading joy
Yeah.
however we can,
So true. That's a great,
because the
it is an
world, the
amazing
world
thing.
needs it, right? The world
Oh
needs it.
boy, does it
Mhm.
ever. Does it ever.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And kids, they're just so amazing. They're just so,
They're resilient.
I was just, it's funny. I was thinking that word myself,
Yeah, they're resilient.
absolutely. And they know they don't give up on the idea that they don't think anything's impossible, which I
Right,
love. I love that,
right,
you know.
right. And those are the books I write,
Yeah.
is about people
Yeah.
who never gave up and feel that nothing is impossible if you can imagine it.
Yeah.
That's my other tagline.
So
Nothing is
important.
impossible
It's so important.
if you can
Because
imagine it. Right.
that can't be lost. Like that's when innocence is lost, when at that moment when they start doubting, and
Right.
they
Exactly.
shouldn't doubt themselves. I hope I'm helping them.
Right.
That's one thing.
I'm sure you are. I'm
Thanks.
sure you are, and I hope I am too. Because
I think you
right,
are too.
that's
Yeah.
that's the gift
Yeah.
that we can give. We cannot cure famine
Exactly.
or global warming. I mean, not individually
I
anyway,
don't think
but
anybody's going to work on that
individually,
anymore.
we can write a story that can change people's
It's
lives.
so true.
Because,
Yeah.
when we're talking about early successes, when there's a school visit, right, and kids meet an author, or even they just read a book, we don't know how their life is changed by that book,
Exactly.
by something they read in
Yes.
that book or saw in that book.
I know.
And I mean, that's all I can ask, right?
I
Is
know,
to
and
be
that's why,
part of
like, I
that.
never cared about
Be part of that.
cooking dinner. Like, you know, my kids used to think that when it was dinner time, the Chinese man brought it. That was it.
Oh, that's so
But
funny.
honestly, I mean, my son is quite he's a real foodie, and but I used to say, look, we could cook a gourmet dinner, or we could write a book. You know,
Right,
I think he wanted the
right.
gourmet dinners. I asked him, there's a school of thought that you pick your parent, you pick your family, and you can, when you return, you can pick them again.
Right, right.
I said, would you pick me again? He goes, you got to do better than just French toast. Because that was the one thing I'm like, wow, it's all about the food. Thanks, Michael.
That is so funny. I have a son who is also a foodie, and he's now gotten into mushroom foraging
Oh, wow.
because he moved back to the East Coast. He's in New Hampshire,
Oh,
actually.
cool.
It was his birthday yesterday,
Oh,
so we
happy
we
birthday.
did a lot of
Yeah.
foodie stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so he forages mushrooms, and
Wow.
dehydrates them and cooks with
Oh,
them,
that's
and
amazing.
yeah, so
My
he's
son lives in
very into
Manhattan, so he forages restaurants.
oh, okay.
Did I tell you I don't think I told you, he's an ADA. I'm very proud. My assistant district attorney in Manhattan. So very proud of my baby. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
awesome.
So
That is
and I will say,
lovely.
he lives his dream. He always, I knew he was going to be a lawyer the minute he did his first mock trial. Like, all
Right.
of a sudden, he couldn't wait. He had called me from the bus to tell me about this mock trial. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, oh God, he's going to be a lawyer. I was
I
probably the only
love
person
that.
that was upset that the child would be a lawyer, because I was like, well, he's either going to make money, or he's going to lose he's going to give up all morals,
Right. Oh,
But
that's
he
funny.
does love
Well,
it.
that sounds lovely. Well,
Yeah.
there's always a place in my heart for New York. I was
Yeah.
born in Manhattan
Yeah.
and lived
Yeah.
there for 10 years, then moved to Brooklyn and
Wow.
lived there for 15. So I lived in New York City for
New
25
York, I
years.
don't think there's another place like it. It's quite an
Yeah.
amazing. I live on Long Island, so I
Okay.
I kind of
All
have the
right.
best of both worlds, because I have like a lagoon. I live on a lagoon with like
Oh,
egrets
how
and swans. Yeah, it's
lovely.
really lovely,
Yeah.
quiet. And then when I go to the city, I get the hustle and bustle. I don't think I could live in the city. It's just too much.
Yeah,
No.
right. It's overpowering. I have an aunt who lives in Rockville Center.
Oh, I
She
live
turned
next to
we
Rockville
we
Center.
pardon?
There's Rockville Center, there's Oceanside, and there's Island Park. I live in Island Park.
Okay, well,
Funny.
she's in Rockville Center,
Wow.
and 2 years ago, my son and I went by train to the city, stayed with my cousin who lives in the theater district,
Mm.
and drove to see her mother, who was turning 97 at the time. So now she's almost 100.
Wow.
And yeah, but lives on her own
Wow.
with her youngest daughter,
Nice.
lives with her. And yeah, and it was amazing. I mean, it was
Yeah.
so much fun,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
visit New York for
Long
a
Island is great
weekend.
because it's so
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
Like, so you can really pop in. But
Yeah.
well, New York, there's reasons why it's not so great either. But but it really is. I live in paradise, really, with
Yeah.
and the dog roams. I have a little dog. I have like 5 lots of land, so the dog gets to run. It's really nice.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah.
Nice.
So
Nice.
it's like living a little bit. It's rural for a place that's not really that rural. So it's really
Right.
nice.
Right.
So
Right. Right. Right.
it's a good place to write. You know.
Right. And I think that for me, this surrounding is very
Yeah,
conducive.
it sounds very peaceful. That's
Yeah, it's
lovely. You
peaceful
need
and
some
it's
peace because
right.
it's very hard to write when there's turmoil around you, because like it
Right.
requires to go to this other place, like
Right.
you have to
Right.
just let go is scary if you have things going on around, because your mind's like, no, I need to worry
Right.
about this. So you really have
Right. I take my hat off to writers who have jobs other than
yeah,
the job of writing
right.
and families,
Yeah.
especially if they have young kids,
Yeah.
and it's bedtime,
Yeah.
it's dinner time, it's visiting the school
Yeah.
for talk to the teacher time. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah. It is a
that's
lot. Yeah.
that's a lot, but there are
Yeah,
a
when
lot of people
when I
who are
got
doing
published,
it,
my
right?
kids were young, and
Right.
they started getting very angry. I'm like, oh great, my kids are gonna hate books. Not angry, but like
Because it was taking your
it
time.
did, yeah, it did. But
Yeah.
I think it's very important to show kids that you're pursuing what you love.
Yes,
Yeah.
and exactly, and that's such good modeling. I know that a couple of people during the adult 50 precious words contest
Mm.
would post online on like Facebook or something a picture of them working on their story and their like 8-year-old or 9-year-old son or daughter
Mm.
sitting next to them writing a
I love
story
that.
and working on a story,
Are they like concurrent? Do they run at the same time?
No, so the adult contest runs March 2nd. This year it's going to be March 2nd and 3rd. It's to celebrate Dr. Seuss's
Okay,
birthday
cool.
because when Dr. Seuss was first writing, his editor, Bennett Cerf, um, challenged him to write a story for children in 50 words or
Oh, I didn't
less.
know that. Wow.
And so he did.
Hmm.
And what he wrote was Green Eggs and Ham.
Wow.
Now, Green Eggs and Ham has 750 words, but only 50 unique words.
Okay.
So, and, am, I, Sam are used many
Right,
times
right,
and they
right.
only count as one word. So I
Oh,
was reading that article
wow.
and I was like, huh, maybe I wonder, could I write a story in only 50 words?
Hmm.
And so I sat down and I wrote a story for children in 50 words. And it's very sweet about the moon and the sun and the stars, whatever. And then I
Whatever.
said, well, wouldn't it be nice? I'll open it up to my
That's
friends.
great.
So on
Yeah.
my blog, I was like, hey guys, I'm going to have this contest. I have 20 prizes. And one prize was a critique with my agent. And then a bunch of author friends were giving critiques
Right.
and signed picture books and whatever. I said, I
Yeah.
have 20
Great.
prizes. So, post your story on my blog. And 128 people
Wow.
posted that first year,
That's great.
which
Yeah.
was great. So I've done it every year. But the children's challenge is during is during Children's Book Week. So the March one is during
Okay.
Read Across America Week.
Okay.
And the children's one is in May during Children's Book Week.
Okay. I can never.
And
I always want to keep these things in my calendar, and they're
yeah,
just so
well, I just
great.
do because I have the contest, so
That's
it
great.
helps
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But and I open it up to teachers and parents, and they can send me not on the blog, they email it to me
Right.
because with kids I don't want to
No,
get
you're
into a
right.
liability
Absolutely.
issue.
Yeah.
And then for Mother's Day, which is May, right after that,
Hmm.
May whatever, some Sunday in
Hmm.
May, I post a special Mother's Day blog post, and it's all the entries
Oh,
from
nice.
the children and just their first
Right.
name
Right.
and their age and the town they live in,
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
and it's lovely. And children that might be the first time that
Mm.
they've written a story that got
Yeah.
published
I know. I love that.
on a
That's so
blog,
exciting.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who knows, maybe some of those children are going to be
I
writers
love
or
it. I love
whatever
it.
they're going to
No
be,
matter what
right?
it is, the confidence that they'll get from that and the pride is so
Right.
amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So important. So
Yeah.
important. So,
I love
yeah,
that.
I mean, I think we all are doing
So
whatever we
so
can.
if people go to what's your website, your name?
So viviankirkfield.com.
And if they go there, they can find out about how to enter the
Yeah,
contest?
yeah. There's a tab for 50 precious words for kids, and it basically talks about the children's challenge.
Mhm.
But I am vamping my website
Right.
in next month, and hopefully, because somebody went to my website and they said to me, "Oh, I didn't know you wrote books in Spanish," and I was like, "No, I don't." And they were like, "Well, when I go to your blog,
Yeah.
your website." That was the Perfect Picture Book Friday post or some book birthday for somebody
Right.
who had a book called Squawk of Spanish.
Oh,
So
they got confused.
right, they got confused
Yeah.
because when you go to my landing page, it's not a landing page. It's my blog.
Oh, yeah. That
And
could
if
be a
they
problem.
want to
Yeah.
go to find out about my books
Yeah.
or
You know,
my
yeah,
school
that
visit,
landing page is always tricky. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am having somebody is going to help me because,
Yeah.
now at almost 78, I don't want to deal with the tech. And so
Oh, I mean, I told you that's why I got the one.
she's gonna fix
Yeah.
it,
Well,
right?
that's
She's gonna
good.
fix
Yeah.
it,
But I'm
you
always
know.
adding stuff. I just put everything on the website, but it is such a challenge. The landing page, that's the hardest part. But you know
Right.
what? You should make sure you do SEO with it.
Right. Well,
Because
she hopefully,
that's really important. Because I tell
right.
you, I get a lot of really great results from my website, all because it comes with like it comes with it, you know.
Uh,
So I could it just runs it. It tells me what keywords to use and all these things like key phrases. It's really
and
quite
maybe mine is telling me and I'm just not listening.
well. It's I pay extra for this SEO, you know, but
Okay.
it's worth it because that's how people you can have the best website in the world, but if no one
Right.
finds it, what good is the website, you know?
Right.
For the
Right. Right.
SEO.
Right.
So, you have to put in things that people are searching for onto your website, basically.
Right.
So I don't
Right.
understand it at all, but it does it. It basically does it. And now I see that they have another way to create the website totally with AI. And I'm like, I don't think I'm
Right.
going to reinvent the wheel. I'm going to leave
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
I haven't clicked on anything that has invited me to do AI.
Yeah.
I'm just a
AI is a
little,
scary thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's for me.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's great for some people and it's
It can
not
be
great for
really
other things, but
like on Facebook. Did you see that when you have when you get comments from people, there's a little summary of the comments now in AI. It's very good for your ego. It tells you all the
oh, really?
yes, it sums up all the wonderful things people have said about your post. I love it.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes I mean, AI definitely has its place, but as usual, people go to the darkest way possible to use something, and this is
Right.
the problem.
Right.
So we
Right.
can't change that. But
Right.
anyway,
Yep. I
I want to
agree.
tell everybody your book's available for pre-order, so they can just
Right.
go right now and order it, and it comes out on February 11th, which is your birthday. So the best birthday present in the whole friggin' world,
Thank
right? You can't
you.
ask for a
Thank
better
you.
present than that,
Thank
you
you.
know?
Yes, yes. I already have a book launch set up
Oh yeah,
in Portsmouth, New Hampshire
very
on
nice.
February 15th, which is
Wow.
a
Where's
Saturday
it at a bookstore?
at G. Willikers. It's
Oh, what
called
a
G.
great name.
Willikers.
I love
And they're
that.
so sweet.
Yeah.
And Portsmouth, New Hampshire is the sweetest coastal New England
Oh, wow.
town. It's really so
Wow.
sweet. And then I have another book launch set up for the very end of March for Women's History Month,
Nice.
which
Yeah.
Lucy Stone and
Yeah.
Annie Londonderry and all
Yeah.
those
And
people
we're going to do
in
another session when we'll talk about your other book as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
in at
Yeah.
the Silver Unicorn in
Oh,
Acton, Massachusetts.
okay.
So,
All right.
and I'll do a
You
couple
should
of
do a
school
launch
visits.
online as well. Maybe you could do a Facebook event.
I could,
They're
yes,
fun. They're
I
fun. They're
know.
fun to do. And I'm
I'm
not going to say
always so nervous about doing anything with a video.
you can do it like live on Facebook. You can have a live
Well,
event.
I know
Yeah.
Facebook Live,
Yeah.
right?
And then you can give a couple of books away as prizes or something, signed books.
Okay.
I've done it. I'm not going to say it's nerve wracking to do it, but it's nice because then you're inviting a much broader audience
Right.
to join, you know.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for the
Yeah,
advice,
think
and
about it. Yeah.
I will think about it.
All right.
Right.
Well,
And then a
I'm
few
so
days
excited
later,
for
I'm
you.
leaving for Costa Rica.
Oh, I've been to. I was there last year. Yeah, it's great. What part
Okay.
of Costa
Yeah.
Rica?
So it's with a group called Road Scholar.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and it's supposed to be very
Hmm.
educational and so you go to the rainforest 3 days and the volcano
Nice.
for 3 days and then the beach area
Yeah,
for three. So you're in three different
yeah. That's great.
areas.
Awesome. Oh,
I
it's
know because
wonderful
you know
there.
what?
Yeah,
I got to do it while my body is
yeah.
still
Costa Rica is a really cool place.
yeah.
They don't have an army. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, so we can learn a lot from them.
Yes, right. See? I
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
right?
So I got a T-shirt about no army in Costa Rica. I love that. You know.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow. That's
yeah.
great.
It's beautiful there.
Yeah.
So
That's
on
what I've
that
heard.
note,
So,
that's wonderful, and I'm so glad that you'll experience it because it's a great place.
yeah.
And um, thanks so much for being with me, Vivian. I will have you back again to talk about Annie.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
you're so much fun to talk to. So thank you. Really
Well,
fun.
you are amazing to talk to.
Oh,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much
Thank
for
you.
having me, Selene.
Oh, it's a
And
great pleasure.
this was great. This
Great.
was lots and lots of fun.
Oh, well, thanks. And
Yeah.
everybody, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Keep your heart full of history.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.